3 years. That's how long it would take for things to settle. 3 years to understand the weight of one phone call. 3 years to learn that sometimes the deepest pain doesn't come from strangers, but from the people who fold your clothes, say your name with love, and mean well. For Malachi, life wasn't loud. He didn't break rules. He didn't talk back. He kept his head down, followed instructions, showed up early, stayed late. He didn't need much, just a chance, a single opportunity, and he had it, until he didn't. It wasn't drugs. It wasn't school fights or the wrong crowd. It was home, his own house, a familiar voice, a tiny misunderstanding. By the time he found out what happened, it was already too late. No second interview, no apology email, no explanation that would fix it, just silence, and the echo of a decision that changed everything. He was 16, a boy most teachers remembered for his silence more than his voice. Suburban Maryland was home, but Malachi often felt like a visitor in his own life, surrounded by expectations he never agreed to, yet quietly carried. He was the potential kid that student guidance counselors praised in front of the class, the one teachers told their own kid to sit beside, not because he asked for it, but because he worked. He listened. He delivered. His mother worked 2 shifts and made sure the house stayed quiet, focused, filled with calendars and college flyers. Stanford, MIT, Johns Hopkins. His friends were already neck-deep in AP classes, late-night study sessions, and backup schools that most would dream of. They talked about internships like they were passports. Malachi, he nodded along, smiled at the right moments, laughed when someone joked about future Teslas in corner offices. But when he sat alone, none of it felt like his. The future sounded loud, and he didn't know if he could hear himself in it. And then came Grandma, Mama Zainab, larger than life, with bright Ankara wrappers and a voice that carried through walls. She arrived from Lagos for a 6-month stay, passport in one hand, a suitcase full of spices in the other. She didn't knock. She entered. She didn't ask. She insisted. She greeted neighbors with full names, prayed in the kitchen, sang hymns while sweeping. The house changed. So did the rhythm. Malachi wasn't used to sharing his silence. She questioned his meals, his phone habits, his bedtime. She once asked why American kids wore their trousers so disrespectfully low. He didn't have an answer. He just smiled awkwardly. She loved deeply, but loudly. Every hour felt observed. Every step felt commented on. And even though her intentions were stitched with care, Malachi felt the shift. The space that used to be his, now shared with someone who didn't fully understand the quiet world he lived in. It was a Thursday afternoon. Malachi had been waiting 2 weeks for a callback, the youth science internship. His counselor said it was a pipeline to scholarships, a once-a-year opportunity. He left his phone charging on the table and stepped into the kitchen. Just for a minute. That minute was all it took. Mama Zainab saw the screen light up. An unfamiliar number. Out of habit, she answered, cheerful, polite. "Is not interested." "Thank you," she said. She thought she was protecting him from spam. She had no idea. By the time Malachi returned, the call had ended. He checked the number. He froze. Then the email came the next day. "We regret to inform you." That single moment collapsed everything. His chest tightened. His mouth dried. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just walked away. His dreams didn't fade. They broke. And he didn't know how to put the pieces back. The silence in his room that night was deafening. He didn't leave for dinner. Didn't respond to texts. The rejection email looped in his mind. But it wasn't just the lost program. It was what it meant. The sacrifice. The effort. The idea of finally being seen. Gone in a 5-second misunderstanding. He skipped school the next morning. Stayed in bed long after sunrise. He couldn't face his counselor, couldn't fake a smile for his friends, couldn't look at Mama Zainab. Because how do you forgive someone who doesn't even know what they took from you? He didn't hate her, but he couldn't talk to her either. And that silence, it lasted for days. The turning point didn't come with fireworks. Just a question. Simple. Unexpected. His best friend, Elijah, leaned against the school lockers one afternoon and said, "If you'd gotten it, would you even be happy?" Malachi didn't respond, because he didn't know. That night, he sat on his floor, journal open, pen in hand. No noise, no pressure, just the quiet weight of his own truth. And slowly, it surfaced. He never saw himself in a lab coat, never dreamed of lectures and science fairs. It was never his idea. He applied because he was supposed to, because everyone around him was moving, and he feared being left behind. But what if slowing down wasn't failure? What if choosing differently was its own kind of strength? For the first time in months, his chest felt lighter. Mama Zainab stopped singing in the mornings, stopped asking questions. She moved slower, spoke softer. One evening, she stood at his door holding his favorite blanket, the one she'd brought from Nigeria. Her voice trembled. "I thought I was helping. I didn't know how serious it was. I'm sorry." No defense, no explanation. Just her eyes, glassy and uncertain, waiting for a forgiveness she wasn't sure she deserved. She grew up in a world where missed calls were nothing, where children didn't talk back, where futures weren't decided by a single voicemail. But now, standing in front of her grandson, she realized this country played by different rules, and she had broken one without knowing. It hurt her more than she could say, because love doesn't always protect. Sometimes it missteps. They didn't fix it in one conversation, but healing rarely comes all at once. That Sunday night, she made agusi stew. The house smelled like home again. Malachi came down, wordless. They ate in silence, then laughed at the way she confused Siri for a real person. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. Later, he sat beside her and showed her how to check voicemail. She listened, asked questions, took notes. It was the kind of moment they'd both remember, not because it erased the past, but because it gave them a new beginning. Malachi didn't have a backup plan. He wasn't sure what came next. But now, he knew. He didn't need to chase a life that wasn't his. He would build one, slowly, with purpose. And for the first time, he wasn't afraid to begin again. One misstep can shake your world, but it can also show you who you are when everything else falls away. So ask yourself, if your future slipped through someone else's fingers, would you still find your way back to yourself? And if you've ever faced a moment like this, where a mistake changed your path, share it in the comments. Your story might help someone else heal. If Malachi's journey moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. We tell stories like this every day, for teens, by heart.